The broken screen. A hydra of wires snarled at Maya from the floor. HDMI coaxial power. A chaotic spectrum lay strewn around the base of her ridiculously oversized TV. Extracting it from her poor Corolla, she'd somehow escaped unscathed, both vehicle and hallway walls avoiding any scratches. Now, the final step, the one promising blissful escape into a marathon of reality shows, was proving her undoing. She nudged a cerulean cable with a nail bitten to the quick. The instruction sheet, a cryptic diagram worthy of a pharaoh's tomb, offered zero guidance. A frustrated sigh puffed past her lips. Perhaps her dad was correct. Rashness and eagerness to plunge headfirst defined her. Up and leaving on a whim, seizing the first affordable apartment, and now she was defeated by a television. A surge of self-pity threatened to engulf her. She yearned for the familiar comfort of her mom's lasagna, the groan-worthy predictability of her dad's jokes, even Peanut's shrill, constant yapping. This new place, echoing and cold, felt anything but home. Then, she recalled Dave. The gentle, silver-haired man she'd briefly met yesterday, the one who'd helped her heave a particularly burdensome box up the stairs. A passing comment about his techie past surfaced in her memory. The prospect of seeking assistance twisted her gut. She loathed appearing helpless, dependent. Yet, another hour battling recalcitrant cables seemed even worse. Across the hall, she found his door, 2B. A coat of quiet green, punctuated by a simple brass knocker. Maya wavered, hand suspended. What if she was intruding? What if he saw her as utterly clueless? What if? She inhaled deeply and rapped, the sound rebounding in the corridor. Moments later, the door opened to reveal Dave. He wore a well-worn blue sweater, and a smile that etched fine lines around his eyes. Maya, isn't it? Come in, come in. What brings you by? His voice resonated with warmth and reassurance. Hi, Dave. Well, I'm wrestling with my TV. And losing. I can't get it connected. Heat blossomed in her cheeks. Dave chuckled softly, a gentle rumble. Modern TVs are far more perplexing than they should be. Let's take a look, shall we? He moved aside, gesturing her forward. Don't you worry, we'll have you glued to something undemanding before you know it. As she followed him across the hall, a spark of hope ignited within Maya, a tiny ember of comfort in the stark apartment. Maybe this leap wouldn't land her in a chasm after all. Movie magic. Dave's large hands, usually occupied with gardening tools or car parts, moved with surprising dexterity as he wrestled with the tangle of wires behind Maya's television. The screen, a recent hand-me-down from her aunt, had stubbornly refused to cooperate. Almost there, he murmured, his brow furrowed in concentration. Just need to coax this HDMI cable into behaving. Maya perched on the edge of her futon, watching him with a mixture of gratitude and something akin to fascination. The scent of his aftershave, a subtle, woody fragrance, filled the small apartment. I really appreciate this, Dave. I was about to throw the whole thing out the window. He chuckled, a warm, rumbling sound. No need for such drastic measures. A little patience and the right tools can fix almost anything. With a final click, he straightened up, remote in hand. All right, let's see if we have a picture. The screen flickered to life, displaying a vibrant jungle scene from a nature documentary. Maya gasped. It works. Oh my gosh, you're a lifesaver. Dave beamed. Glad to be of assistance. Now, what are you planning to watch first? Something educational, perhaps. Maya grinned sheepishly. Probably not. I was thinking something a little less informative. Maybe Casablanca. I've never actually seen it. Dave's eyes lit up. Casablanca. A woman of taste, I see. That's a fine choice. Ingrid Bergman's performance is simply unforgettable. He settled into the armchair, a comfortable familiarity radiating from him. You know, my wife, Sarah, loved classic films. We used to have movie nights every Friday. Black and white, big band music, the whole 9 yards. His voice softened, a hint of melancholy creeping in. Maya noticed the shift in his demeanor, and her heart went out to him. That sounds wonderful. I'm sorry for your loss, Dave. He offered a sad smile. It was a long time ago, but the memories are still vivid. We watched Casablanca countless times. She always cried at the ending. He paused, then seemed to shake off the sadness. So, are you ready to be swept away by Rick and Ilsa? As the opening credits rolled, Maya felt a strange sense of anticipation. Not just for the movie, but for the shared experience with Dave. She had expected a quick fix and a polite thank you. Instead, she was sitting in her small apartment, about to watch a classic film with a man who clearly possessed a wealth of stories and a gentle soul. It was unexpected, a little unnerving, and if she was honest with herself, incredibly exciting. She glanced at Dave, his face illuminated by the flickering light of the screen, a soft smile playing on his lips. For the first time since moving into the building, Maya felt a sense of belonging, a connection to someone who saw beyond her awkwardness and insecurities. She had a feeling this was just the beginning. Afternoon chats. The chipped mug warmed Maya's hands as she perched on the edge of Dave's floral armchair. Sunlight streamed through the lace curtains, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. She clutched a crumpled piece of paper listing movie titles she'd gleaned from online forums, her pen tapping nervously against the ceramic. So I was thinking something intellectual. But not like boring intellectual. You know. Dave chuckled, the sound like dry leaves rustling. He leaned back in his recliner, its worn leather creaking in protest. Intellectual but not boring. A fine line to walk. He stroked his chin, his eyes twinkling. Have you ever seen The Apartment? Maya frowned, scanning her list. Nope. Is it like a foreign film? Because I tried one of those once, and I mostly just read subtitles. Billy Wilder. 1960, Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine. It's bittersweet. Funny, sad, a little cynical. It explores loneliness, ambition, and finding connection in unexpected places. Maya's brow furrowed. Sounds heavy. Life is heavy sometimes, Maya. But Wilder has a way of making the weight bearable. He paused, a wistful expression flitting across his face. My wife, Eleanor, loved that film. She said it reminded her of our early days. Maya's hand stilled on her mug. Oh. I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to, don't apologize. It's good to remember. He sighed, the sound heavy with unspoken grief. Eleanor worked as a secretary downtown, much like Shirley MacLaine's character. I was a junior architect, full of grand ideas and very little money. He smiled, a ghost of the man he once was. We used to dream of designing buildings together, of filling them with life and laughter. We managed the laughter part, at least. Maya set her mug on the side table, the clink echoing in the quiet room. She wanted to ask about Eleanor, to learn more about the woman who had filled this house with life, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she told him about her own struggles, about feeling lost and uncertain about her future. She confided in him about her photography aspirations, and the nagging doubts that gnawed at her confidence. Dave listened patiently, his gaze steady and unwavering. When she finished, he simply said, "Life is a series of snapshots, Maya. Some blurry, some perfectly in focus. The trick is to keep taking them, to keep searching for the beauty in the ordinary." He then rose with a slight groan, shuffled over to a towering bookshelf that lined one wall, and plucked out a worn DVD case. He handed it to Maya. Watch it tonight. Let me know what you think. The cover depicted a black and white cityscape, a lone figure silhouetted against the towering buildings. The apartment. Thanks, Dave, Maya said, a genuine smile finally gracing her lips. The afternoon light seemed warmer now, the dust motes dancing with renewed energy. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to find her own focus. Whispers in the hallway. The ghost of Dave's meatloaf, seasoned with an inscrutable blend of herbs, still perfumed Maya's sweater as she hurried down the corridor. She checked the time. An hour evaporated, consumed by light-hearted banter and unexpectedly moving anecdotes about Dave's deceased wife, Sarah. A flicker of guilt nipped at her conscience. She should have been buried in her Intro to Psych textbook. Reaching her apartment, she spotted Patty Jenkins, arms crossed, stationed near the mail slots, her gaze riveted on Dave's doorway. Patty's perm, a rigid cloud of silver curls, appeared particularly unyielding today. Maya offered a hesitant greeting. "Hi, Patty." Patty's eyes darted to Maya, then snapped back to Dave's apartment. "Just admiring your neighborliness, dear. Mr. Miller's been rather withdrawn lately. It's nice to see someone brightening his day." The tone dripped honey, but carried a strange, sharp undertone. Maya juggled her keys, the metal cold against her palm. The following afternoon, weighed down with academic burdens and a ravaged bag of chips, Maya trudged back from the library. Nearing her floor, she registered hushed voices. Patty, once more haunting the mailboxes, was locked in a low-toned conversation with Mrs. Abernathy from 3B. "Practically a daily occurrence now," Patty murmured, disapproval coating her words. "Such an unusual pairing, wouldn't you agree? A girl that age." Mrs. Abernathy's response was indistinct, but Maya caught the last fragment, mindful of his solitude. Patty scoffed quietly. "Mindful? Or something quite different? He's still mourning, poor soul. Exceedingly vulnerable." A wave of heat flushed Maya's face. She hadn't intended to eavesdrop, yet stood paralyzed, her key poised at the lock. The chip bag rustled betrayingly in her grip. Patty's head swiveled in her direction. "Oh, Maya. I didn't see you lurking there." The saccharine sweetness had evaporated, replaced by a blatant assessment. "Just chatting with Mrs. Abernathy. The weather is simply glorious, don't you think?" Maya managed a smile, her stomach twisting. "Yes, wonderful." She unlocked her door, the tumblers clicking far too loudly in the sudden stillness. As she slipped inside, she felt Patty's stare boring into the back of her head. The apartment seemed smaller than usual, the posters on her wall suddenly juvenile. She dropped her books with a thud. The faint scent of meatloaf, once comforting, now felt oppressive, unwelcome. The whispered words in the hallway had sown a seed of uncertainty, a tiny, irritating thorn that threatened to dismantle the comfortable rapport she had begun to cultivate with Dave. Was she acting selfishly? Was she causing him pain, or worse, misleading him? Conflicted feelings. Smine tea's familiar scent often brought tranquility, but tonight its delicate perfume barely touched the storm raging within Maya. Dave's laughter, a light-hearted echo, haunted her thoughts. During the yarn untangling episode, his accidental touch had ignited an unexpected spark. Was this friendship or something else entirely? She shoved aside her unfinished scarf, the wool's texture, usually comforting, now felt abrasive. On her laptop, a search for age-gap friendships yielded a deluge of articles. Most centered on romantic entanglements, cautionary tales of imbalance and judgment. Scrolling through the results, a disquieting feeling took root. An article titled "Cross-Generational Connections, Decoding the Signals" snagged her attention. It explored the potential for misconstrued affections, the blurring lines between camaraderie and something deeper. A tremor ran through her as she clicked. The piece articulated feelings she'd suppressed. Dave's unwavering support, his non-judgmental ear, their comfortable silences. He valued her input, championed her ambitions. Was she projecting? Misreading signals? Later, while at the sink, a text pinged, "Cookies were amazing, thanks again. Sleep well, Maya." A flush warmed her face, followed by a wave of guilt. Her thumb hovered over the reply. "You're welcome" felt inadequate, yet anything more teetered on a precipice. Finally, she tapped out, "You're welcome. Glad you liked them." A tight knot formed in her chest as she set down her phone. The confusion was a thick fog, each step leading to another blind alley. Dave's friendship was a treasure, but these turbulent emotions threatened to shatter it. The dishwater, once soothingly warm, now felt lukewarm, the clatter of plates a discordant symphony against her raw nerves. A helping hand. The aroma of oversteeped tea usually wafted from Dave's apartment, a comforting blend that hinted at chamomile and something faintly floral. Today, though, the hallway reeked of stale air and something metallic, acrid. A knot tightened in Maya's stomach. She'd promised to help Dave with his grocery shopping after her classes, and he hadn't answered her text. She knocked, louder this time. "Dave?" "It's Maya." Silence. Frowning, she tried the handle. Unlocked. The scene inside hit her like a physical blow. Dave was slumped in his armchair, his face ashen, a half-empty mug of tea spilled on the worn rug. He was breathing shallowly, a rattling sound escaping his lips. Panic clawed at Maya's throat. "Dave." She rushed to his side, kneeling beside him. His skin was clammy and cold. She grabbed his hand, his grip was weak. "Maya," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Didn't want to bother you, don't talk, Dave. Just rest." Her hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone, punching in 911. The dispatcher's calm voice was a jarring contrast to the chaos swirling inside her. She answered the questions, her voice tight with fear, giving their address, describing Dave's condition as best she could. The ambulance arrived in what felt like an eternity, sirens wailing, lights flashing, painting the small apartment in strobing hues of red and blue. Paramedics swarmed in, their movements efficient and practiced. Maya stepped back, feeling useless, her heart pounding in her chest. At the hospital, the waiting room chairs were hard and unforgiving. The air hummed with the fluorescent lights and the low murmur of hushed conversations. Hours crawled by. A doctor, his face etched with fatigue, finally emerged. "He's stable now." It was a sudden drop in blood pressure, complicated by his age and a slight arrhythmia. "We're running tests." Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her, so intense it made her knees weak. "Can I see him?" Dave looked small and frail in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors that beeped and whirred. He managed a weak smile when he saw her. "You shouldn't have waited, Maya. Go home." "I'm not going anywhere." She pulled up a chair, her gaze fixed on his face. "I'm staying right here." That night, Maya slept fitfully in a chair next to Dave's bed, the rhythmic beeping of the machines a constant reminder of his fragile state. She dreamt of the tea set on his shelf, of his quiet smile, of the stories he told. When dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, she woke with a start. Dave was awake, watching her. "Thank you, Maya," he said, his voice stronger now. "For everything." His words, simple and sincere, resonated deep within her. It wasn't just gratitude she saw in his eyes, but something more, a connection, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and worry. And in that moment, Maya knew that whatever this unexpected friendship was, it was something she wouldn't trade for anything. She reached for his hand, and this time, his grip was firm. "Mom's concerns." Maya perched her laptop on a precarious tower of textbooks. Her mother's image resolved on the screen, smile lines crinkling around her eyes. "Hola, Mija. How's the new place? Are you subsisting entirely on noodles?" Maya chuckled. "Hi, Mom. It's good, actually. I cooked pasta last night. And I'm getting to know the area." She carefully omitted any specifics about whose company she enjoyed while getting to know the area. Her mom's smile dipped slightly. "That's good, but be vigilant, okay? A city this size attracts a colorful cast of characters." "I am, Mom." "Relax." Maya toyed with a lock of hair, a telltale sign of nerves. "I've actually made a friend, Dave, my neighbor. He's been a real lifesaver, helping me settle in." A pregnant pause followed. Maya could practically see the mental gears whirring in her mother's head. "Dave? And his age, Carino. He's around Dad's age, give or take. Maya internally groaned at her clumsy response. Her mother's expression clouded, worry etching deeper furrows around her eyes. Maya, promise me you'll be cautious. You're so open-hearted. I don't want you entangled with someone unsuitable. Mom. He's just a friend. He fixed my TV, and we've been chatting about books and stuff. The half-truth felt like grit in her mouth. Books were discussed, certainly, but so were vulnerabilities, aspirations, and the strange gravitational pull humming between them. Books? A note of skepticism edged into her mother's tone. Maya, he's a man in his 50s. What on earth do you two have in common? He's insightful, Mom. And he listens in a way no one ever has. A tinge of defensiveness sharpened Maya's voice. He doesn't judge or direct. He just gets it. Gets it. Mija, you're 19. Be discerning about who you trust. Men like that, they can be skilled at manipulation. A wave of indignation washed over Maya. That's unfair, Mom. You haven't even met him. He's not like that at all. He's genuinely good. Kindness can be a disguise, Maya. I just don't want you hurt. There are plenty of boys your age at school. Why aren't you spending time with them? Because I don't connect with them, Mom. Dave is different. He's experienced, understanding. I learn from him. Is that really so wrong? Maya's eyes began to prickle. She loathed this conversation. It felt like a betrayal of Dave, and of the feelings blossoming inside her. Her mother sighed, her shoulders sagging almost imperceptibly. No, Mija, learning is never wrong. Just promise me you'll be careful. Keep your wits about you. Don't let him exploit your trusting nature. I promise, Mom. The words tasted like ash, a flimsy defense against her mother's anxieties, and the burgeoning doubts within herself. The video call concluded with assurances of a future chat, but the vibrancy had seeped from the screen. Maya shut her laptop, the weight of her mother's apprehension pressing down on her. Doubts, previously suppressed, now spiraled within her like a brewing storm. Was she being blind? Was she misinterpreting Dave's intentions? Was she on the precipice of a colossal error? The questions echoed in the stillness of her apartment, magnifying her anxieties. She glanced out the window toward Dave's apartment, the soft glow of his lamp a comforting presence against the encroaching darkness, a presence that now seemed to waver with uncertainty. Letter from the past. The postman's whistle sliced through the late afternoon quiet, a sharp, insistent sound that always made Maya jump. Dave, however, seemed unfazed, continuing to meticulously prune his rose bushes. She watched him from her window, the sun catching the silver in his hair, and felt a pang of something she couldn't quite name. Loneliness, perhaps. Or maybe just a strange sort of protectiveness. A few minutes later, she heard the distinct thwack of the mail slot. Curiosity piqued, she hurried downstairs, intercepting Dave as he emerged from his garden. He held a single envelope, its paper thin, and almost translucent with age. His face was unreadable. Anything interesting? Maya asked, trying to sound casual. Dave didn't answer immediately. He turned the envelope over in his hands, his brow furrowed. From family, he said finally, his voice thick. A very long time ago. He retreated inside, and Maya, respecting his privacy, returned to her apartment. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just shifted. The air around Dave felt different, charged with a kind of subdued energy. Later that evening, as they sat on his porch, sharing mugs of chamomile tea, Dave cleared his throat. The crickets chirped their relentless song, and the scent of honeysuckle hung heavy in the air. That letter, he began, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, it was from my cousin, Sarah. I haven't seen her, or any of my family, in decades. Since before my wife passed. Maya's heart did a little flip. What did it say? She wants me to come visit. They all do. They're getting older, she said. And they want to reconnect. He looked at Maya, his eyes filled with a complicated mix of emotions. I think I have to go. The words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Maya felt a sudden hollowness in her chest. Go? Where? For how long? The questions tumbled out, betraying her rising anxiety. To Vermont. Where I grew up. I don't know how long. A few weeks, maybe more. He reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. I know this is sudden, Maya. I wouldn't leave if it wasn't important. But it was important. More important than her, apparently. The thought stung, even though she knew it was unfair. She pulled her hand away, a sudden chill settling over her despite the warm evening air. The next few days were a blur of activity. Dave, usually so calm and collected, bustled around his house, packing suitcases, arranging for his neighbor to water his plants, and making endless phone calls. Maya watched, a silent observer, feeling increasingly abandoned. She tried to help, offering to take care of his mail or feed his cat, but her offers felt clumsy and inadequate. It was clear that he was leaving, and nothing she could say or do would change his mind. The morning of his departure arrived, gray and overcast. Maya stood on the sidewalk, clutching her arms around herself, as Dave loaded his suitcase into a taxi. He turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and apology. I'll miss you, Maya, he said, his voice soft. I'll call you as soon as I can. He hugged her tightly, a brief, awkward embrace that left her feeling even more alone. Then, he climbed into the taxi, and with a final wave, disappeared down the street. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya stood there for a long moment, watching the empty space where the taxi had been, the letter from the past having stolen her present. Coming home. The silence in the apartment was a thick, suffocating blanket. Without Dave's booming laugh echoing from next door, Maya realized how much she'd come to rely on his presence. It wasn't a romantic reliance, not in the way Patty Jenkins seemed to imply, but something deeper, like a missing piece of her life had suddenly reappeared. She found herself replaying their conversations, searching for hidden meanings or ulterior motives. But there were none, just a genuine connection between two people who had found solace in each other's company. A car door slamming outside jolted her from her thoughts. Peeking through the blinds, she saw Dave unfolding himself from his old sedan, a worn leather duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He looked tired, the lines around his eyes etched a little deeper, but there was a familiar warmth in his smile as he caught her gaze. Back already? Maya asked, a little too eagerly, as he stood at her door. Couldn't stay away, Dave chuckled, his voice roughened by travel. Went to see my sister in upstate. We sorted through some of Margaret's things. A shadow passed over his face, a fleeting reminder of his loss. She insisted I take this. He held up a small, intricately carved wooden bird. Margaret loved them. Maya reached out and gently took the bird. It was smooth and warm to the touch, a tangible piece of Dave's past. It's beautiful, she whispered, feeling a pang of sympathy for him. It made me realize, Dave continued, his voice gaining strength, how important it is to cherish the friendships we have. You've been a real light in my life, Maya. A good friend. That night, they settled back into their usual movie night routine. Dave had brought a new DVD, an old classic Maya had never seen. As the opening credits rolled, a tentative knock sounded on the door. Patty Jenkins stood on the porch, a plate of cookies in her hand. Welcome back, Dave, Patty said, her voice surprisingly subdued. I just wanted to apologize if I said anything out of line. I was just worried about Maya. Dave smiled warmly. Appreciate that, Patty. But Maya and we're just good friends. Nothing more, nothing less. Patty nodded, a hint of understanding in her eyes. Well, these are chocolate chip, Maya's favorite. Enjoy the movie. She retreated back to her apartment, leaving Maya and Dave in the warm glow of the television. Maya glanced at Dave, a silent question in her eyes. He simply smiled and pressed play. The movie began, the familiar comfort of their friendship settling around them like a well-worn blanket. The wooden bird sat on the coffee table, a silent testament to a bond forged in shared grief, and growing into something uniquely their own. The air smelled faintly of chocolate chip cookies and old DVDs, and for the first time in a long time, Maya felt truly at home.